Hello, everybody.
Good morning.
We're gonna start on this screen,
Okay.
and the reason I say that is because I forgot my wireless mouse at home, so I can't change the screen.
So we'll probably just stay on the screen.
Yeah, and my
That's
tooth
okay.
hurts.
Did you go to the dentist?
No, I just ate breakfast, and for some reason my
Should
tooth
you go
decided.
to the dentist?
Probably.
Dan's going into the newsroom right now, the studio right now, looking probably for one of us. But we're in here.
We're in here doing podcast. Hi, everybody.
Oh, I forgot with this scene that they can't see behind us like they normally can.
No,
So
they can't.
normally they get to see the stories of it all,
There's
but
Rachel.
they can't. There's Rachel. Hi, everyone.
Hi, everybody. Perfect time for my tooth to start hurting when we have to talk. Today we're going to be talking about Tornado Alley. We put
Yes.
up topics for you last week to choose, and we didn't have a podcast last week. Long story short, we're having it this week, so we went with the topic that you guys chose last week, which is Tornado Alley. And some may know what Tornado Alley is, some may not. Quite
Yeah.
simply put, it is the most favorable spot in the United States
Pretty much, yeah.
to see tornadoes.
I was going to try to list states, but probably one of the things we'll touch on is it's moving. It's constantly moving.
Yeah, I would say that it's evolving. Put it that way.
Yes, true. Yeah, it's not really moving. It's actually just becoming bigger. What's
Dad
happening?
gave us the stare of death. He's like, "What are you doing?" So yeah, welcome everybody. Appreciate you all being here. Yeah, Tornado Alley. So Tornado Alley. Don't know how you were taught. I was taught in elementary school. Probably what,
Are you ready?
fourth grade?
Okay.
It's like science, fourth
Yeah,
grade
yeah.
science.
Yep.
And that really piqued my interest in. This was the same time as Twister, so yeah, this piqued my interest as a kid.
That's crazy because I decided I wanted to be a meteorologist when I was in the fourth grade.
It's interesting.
Is it? Is
mean-
there like a unit
I don't know.
in the fourth grade? I mean, I know we had a weather unit in the fourth grade
We had Earth science
for us, and that's what piqued my interest.
So we had Earth science, so that is definitely what piqued my interest. But I mean, I went in
Interesting.
second grade. I told my second grade teacher I was going to be a meteorologist in 9 and 10. So it was a little bit earlier, but
Yeah.
we had 9 and 10 come visit us in fourth grade. So we had a
We
meteorologist
had
come
my
visit.
local meteorologist come visit in the fourth grade.
That's what we had too. So
Yeah.
makes sense.
Tony Petrarca.
Ours was Dan Lee, the good old Dan Lee. Okay, so Tornado
Anyways.
Alley. We're getting sidetracked. Tornado Alley. So there is a strip of area
Yes.
from Texas to the Great Lakes.
Yep.
So in particular, Michigan, Wisconsin, but it goes from a diagonal. That is where you see cold air from Canada collide with warm air from the Gulf. That is where you tend to see a lot of tornado outbreaks. That is Tornado Alley. But let's talk about how that strip is kind of evolving, because before it was like kind of dead set. You'd always see
Yeah.
tornadoes, Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas,
Like you could almost draw a line of, I remember
the plains.
there's
states.
research. Yeah, you could literally draw a line of like most tornadoes in an area, and it was always in that specific spot. But kind of, if people have been paying attention to the podcast in the past couple weeks, you've been mentioning a lot how our cold line is changing.
Yep.
And that's kind of the case for everyone. It's
Everyone's
not
cold
just Michigan who's seeing our rain snow line change. It's a lot of areas that are seeing their jet stream line, their warm air line change as well. And that's now causing almost a shift in where the tornadoes are actually hitting.
Correct. And so when you look at, I wrote a paper on this, believe it or not, I wrote a paper on this in college in 2008. It was my last paper.
Ahead of your time.
Ahead of my time. And I wrote a paper on how Tornado Alley is moving east. Unfortunately, I didn't get a good grade on the paper, not because my point wasn't valid or that I had good science to back it up. I just didn't cite my sources, which is a no-no.
Kind of a rookie mistake.
Rookie
if you
mistake.
were with you, Michael.
But
Before Chat
even-
GPT.
even then, the professor didn't agree with me.
Really?
The professor's like, no, this isn't happening. I'm like,
Interesting.
and out of all the things that, so his name was Doc. We called him Doc. Out of all the things that me and Doc, like, I always agree with him 99% of the time.
Right.
Like, he was very forthcoming. But when I presented the paper to him, he's like, no, this isn't happening. Fast forward 17 years, it is
we are.
happening.
Yeah.
It is definitely happening. And the reason that's happening is because you're seeing more warm air surge farther north, farther east, and you're also seeing much colder air surge farther east, farther south.
Right.
And so you're getting more outbreaks. To put it bluntly, this year, there's been somewhere in the realm of like 200 plus tornadoes east of the Mississippi River. That is well east of what has been categorized as Tornado Alley.
Exactly.
And I will focus or run it back. When we had our ice storm,
Yeah.
they had massive amounts of tornadoes. Indiana,
It
Ohio,
was
Kentucky,
a crazy
Tennessee.
line of that system. It was like when we say like a mixed bag of a forecast for northern Michigan, because sometimes you'll see snow in the Sioux and sunshine in Mount Pleasant.
Right.
Like I think that was the most like mixed bag of a U.S. region forecast.
Right.
There was flood warning, severe weather, ice storms. I have a good friend Michael who is in Evansville, Indiana, and they were having flood warnings and tornado warnings. Well, we were having ice storms and winter weather advisories in the UP. So, it's only a 6-hour, 8-hour difference between us and him, but that's how warm they got and how unstable their atmosphere was to get that kind of weather.
So it's a evolving thing. So it's not moving from the traditional states that
right?
Texas, Oklahoma. It's just expanding, and we are seeing more and more and more farther east. Doesn't mean Texas isn't getting their tornadoes.
Right.
Doesn't mean Kansas and Oklahoma aren't getting their tornadoes. It's just not so confined.
Yeah, it's not as uniform as it once was.
And then you're seeing it spread out more east. What does that mean? It means we see tornadoes like Gaylord 3 years ago.
Yep.
It means we see bigger, badder, crazier tornadoes in the state of Michigan, which is not out of the realm of things. You go back to the 50s, there's the Beecher tornado, which is still one of the biggest tornadoes in American history.
Yeah.
And that was down at Flint. But it just means they're getting a little bit farther out of their normal territory.
Right.
So they're getting a little bit farther north, they're getting a little bit farther east, they're getting a little bit farther in every direction.
I think it's interesting that you said, so you were in college in 2008. I was just starting college in 2018. And we were taught in survey meteorologist, which is like kind of like your introduction of meteorology you take freshman year, that the Tornado Alley is changing all the time. So it's weird that in that 10-year span, how it has been, like you were like, it wasn't a conversation, it was a fact. It's a fact now. It's not well, researchers are looking. It's like, no, this is happening.
So what do you attribute that science to? Is it the science that we have more data points, or is it that we have more people investigating it? Is it the storm chasers?
I would say, is it population?
Is
it? Yeah. That's actually a really interesting
because
point.
I'm sure these areas saw tornadoes before.
Right. Do we just now have people in cities that we didn't have cities before?
Right. Are we getting more confirmed sightings?
I think that is most likely the case. I think no matter what, we talked about it on our climate podcast 2 weeks ago, how with climate change, it's not so much that the weather is changing, it's just happening more often or happening more extreme. I think the tornado this is a perfect case of we are seeing a tornado season kind of expand, which means now we have more options and more of a time period in the year to see tornadoes, which then in turn, instead of it only being a 3-month period for some of these areas, it is now closer to a 5-month period. So that's going to increase your tornado watches. And then I also think in social media now, it is so easy. How many times do we see on National Weather Service chats them saying confirmed via social media?
Right.
Like, I think that's something not even in 2008, and early 2000s we even had.
That's true. I mean, when you look at it, there's more resources.
Yeah, like we didn't have Reed Timmer wasn't he was a thing, but like he wasn't the thing.
Yeah, in 2008 he was just starting the Discovery Show.
People were calling him crazy in 2008. And now it's if Reed.
Now I tuned into him last night in New Mexico.
He's the Jim Cantori of severe weather. It's like if Reed comes to your town, then things are getting real.
Yeah. If you see Tiv.
Yeah, like
head for the hills.
Things are happening. So I think it's a mix of the climate change of it, how it's our season is expanding and our area is expanding, but I also think it is just we have more eyes.
I think there's a lot to that. What you said though is the season is expanding.
Yeah.
Because look at when we've had some of our tornadoes. Gaylord was
May.
It was May 22nd. I want to say.
I think so. Yeah.
It was a Friday afternoon. It was 90 degrees and it was warm, and people were
Right.
traveling. Right. But that was a late May day. Now, granted, it's not out of the realm of things, but we're still in spring there.
No, that's
Usually,
you think of a severe thunderstorm happening, not a tornado.
Not an almost EF4 tornado.
Right.
But it seems more and more it's either early and maybe late season. It's not so much in the middle of summer for us anymore.
It is. I knock on wood for us, but I think my 3 summers here, we've had a pretty tamed severe weather. We have our few outbursts here or there,
Right.
but it's never been a consistent of
No.
like storms coming through or anything. We've had, granted, it does attribute to the dryness that we've been seeing the past couple of years for our summers.
You came in after Gaylord, right?
Yes, I signed my contract and then Gaylord made national news, and my mom went, "You're not." Oh my God, a tornado! Because I said I always wanted a storm chase, and my mom said that will never happen, so I never did. My mom went, "Oh my gosh, a tornado in Michigan! Thank God you're not near that." And then I went, "No, but that is my viewing area," and she was like, "Huh?"
Yeah.
So, because in Massachusetts,
odd one.
we don't get tornadoes.
Right.
We have a few sometimes in Western Mass. Normally, they're an EF2 at most.
Skinny ropes.
Exactly, but where I'm too close to the water where I'm from, that you're not seeing a tornado develop. You're lucky if you see a severe thunderstorm warning pop up.
You once you're closer to the bigger oceans, it's very rare, very
Exactly.
rare.
Cold air kills
Yeah.
tornadoes and severe weather. That's why this time of year, when we talk about just severe thunderstorms in general, the lakes right now
Lakes.
play the huge factor of
Well,
whether we're going to see severeness.
And that's what we were looking at. Not to just focus on the Gaylord tornado, but
right.
that day was just very weird. Because yes, it was late May. We were coming off of a kind of okay winter. But the lakes kind of developed it. They were just small storms off of Lake Michigan. And I think I recall they came in, but they started blowing up. They hit that juicy air just as I got off the big lakes, and we were starting to cover them. But it was just very odd outside. It was one of those days that I had not experienced as a meteorologist per se.
Really?
I mean, you went outside, it was warm and it was muggy, but the wind at the surface was pretty calm. But you could hear the wind
Really?
whipping aloft. Yeah, so you could hear the upper atmosphere.
Which
So
is
it was
like
just
a
whipping.
recipe
Which
for
I think we
tornado.
had a jet streak over us that day, which
Okay.
makes everything make sense. But when you can hear the wind but
Right.
not feel it, that's just an oddity. But that's,
Yeah, I don't
that
think I've
was
ever
100
felt that.
And that was 100% the shear. Like the
100%,
shear was
yeah.
whipping that day. So it was very odd in the fact that, one, I had never seen that, and I was sitting there like, oh, what's going on?
What does that mean?
And I've only experienced it a handful of times.
Right.
But yeah, the conditions were just right for those small storms off Lake Michigan just explode.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a fact that Tornado Alley that we were taught as kids, granted your age, whichever age you're at, the older you are, the little orange,
Oh my God, yeah, the little stripe.
yeah, is no longer that. It is
No.
expanding more east, more
Yeah.
north. You see more tornadoes now in Canada, even.
Yeah.
So you're not seeing just.
It is also like a
area.
weird fact too. When we do trivia for our other show, that the U.S. is is the top place for tornadoes. So
And it's
like,
all our setup.
yeah, and it's just we have the perfect land for it. There's no other place in this world that has the perfect setup that we do.
Look at the geography of the world, and when you look at I mean, mountains have to come into play. Look
So
at the
if you-
oceans. Look at the warm
We
air.
have such a big landmass that's relatively, I mean, yeah, we have mountains, but relatively flat.
Right.
If you compare to Russia, China, there's all those mountains up there that it's not
And that's a
enough.
barrier.
Exactly.
So you have to remember like where the Rockies are. If the Rockies were a little bit farther east, it'd be very different.
Yes.
But since the Rockies are there, that cold air comes out of the northwest into the central plains,
Mm-hmm.
where if you have any warm air sitting there, obviously warm air rises, that cold air comes crashing in. It is a recipe for tornadoes.
Yeah.
That's why the central plains, Tornado Alley, originally.
Exactly.
But it made sense. You had the Gulf air, you had the cold air from Canada, and that
And then
mixes,
just
and that
to the
gives you
north and to
everything.
the east, yeah, there's higher elevations, but not enough that if it was a good setup,
Right.
can knock it down. Like you think of Michigan, you come up to Tornado Alley and you come up to here. Yeah, we have higher points, but we don't have.
Well, we're splitting that V, right?
Yeah,
Because you have the Rockies, and then you have the Appalachians. So in between that, what do you have? You have a valley.
exactly.
So I mean, it's quite simple math when you look at all the pieces together.
Mm-hmm.
You have the cold air from the north, warm air from the south, the two valleys. That whole valley is essentially what Tornado Alley is now.
Yeah, pretty much.
From the Appalachians to the Rockies.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
And that is where you see the majority of tornadoes,
Mm-hmm.
not just here in the world.
No, like this is worldwide. Like
Yeah,
we.
and you see videos all the time when like Italy will get a tornado, or
Yeah,
someone will get
and
a
they're,
tornado,
like, shocked by it.
Whoa, tornado! For us, it's like, oh yeah, it's a tornado, but that's because we see them on a what?
Be like us with like
a weekly
monsoon
basis?
season almost.
We'll say a weekly basis. We see them on a weekly basis.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah.
In North America, whereas in the United States, even, but in the world, they might see them once.
A blue moon.
A blue moon, yeah.
I
So it's a
remember
little
like when
different.
TikTok, like when COVID was like happening and everyone was on TikTok, like trying to like learn new things in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I remember like people in like Ireland being like, what is the like, cause when we were going COVID, it was just the start of severe weather season. So tornadoes were happening while everyone was at home. And then people around the world, because there was nothing else to do besides watch the news of your other countries.
Yeah.
They were like, wait, what is this? What do you guys have to deal with? And you're like, yeah, these are tornadoes. And I remember like a lot of people in Europe learning about tornadoes for the first time because they were paying attention to what was happening to us weather-wise.
So not even within the last. So this is data from 1915 to 2019,
Okay.
and it goes anywhere from the Rockies all the way, even a little bit east of the Appalachians. But yes, it is moving east.
Oh,
And
100%.
we'll put this on so you guys
Yeah.
can show it for those watching live stream right now. I mean, it is just looks like a kid took a crayon and just scribbled all the way to.
Colored
DC.
in half of America.
But you can see where the Appalachians are because where West Virginia is and then Northeast, it kind of holds
Fizzles
back.
out.
Yeah, fizzles
Yeah.
out. But yeah, the U.S. alone averages 1,200 tornadoes annually.
That's insane.
1,200 tornadoes, 4 times the amount seen in Europe. So Europe sees 300 tornadoes annually a year. So I mean, that's kind of
Sometimes what we get just tornado warnings, not confirmed tornadoes, but 300 tornado warnings.
yeah.
If it's a good outbreak, every in 2 week span. Not confirmed tornadoes, but
And then violent tornadoes like EF4s, EF5s occur more often in the United States than in any other country.
yeah.
And that's because of our setup. So yeah, they say most tornadoes in the United States occur east of the Rocky Mountains, the Great Plains, Midwest, and Mississippi Valley in the southern United States. Tornado alley is a colloquial term
Oh,
for an area particularly prone to tornadoes. There's no officially defined tornado alley, but yeah,
due to research, this is what we can say it is.
they're saying it's continuing to move.
Yeah.
So
When
yeah,
you can
there
see
go.
it, I mean,
But-
in this day and age, because of social media, it's almost like this is the research. It's not even like math or science behind it. It is
Right.
really just what we're seeing. It's almost a social science kind of how the tornado alley is moving.
Right, and I mean that's really when you look at the ingredients. You have to have
Wind shear?
wind shear, you have to have moisture, you have to have warm air, cold air, you have to have peak heating
No, and you have to have instability.
And so, like, when you're going across, so think of a storm. And if a storm is coming out of the Rockies, it's going to hit the plains first and then into the eastern, but it's running out of time as it moves east, right?
Yes.
It's going against time.
Yep.
So you'll see those storms fire for the most part, usually in the Central Plains, maybe the Mississippi River, and then they're falling apart as
Losing
they're getting
steam.
into the east because they're running against daylight.
Yep.
So they're running out of peak heating, they're running out of that fuel. So yes, Tornado Alley seemed like it's always better in the Central Plains because their central time zone, they have the
Right.
better setup. Anything moving through there can move, but then die as it moves east.
Yes.
Nowadays, you're seeing warmer temperatures overall. You're seeing the expansion of warmer air. You're seeing the colder air still running into us as normal.
Our overtime lows aren't
Blowing.
overnight lowing.
No. So, and that's where a lot of people might think, well, Northern Michigan, it's not going to matter because we always get down into the 40s and 50s at night.
Right.
If that was still the normal. The normal
Yes.
now is, we are staying
we woke
warmer.
up to, I came into work and it was 50 degrees outside still here in Cadillac.
Right. And that's not the norm.
Right. Like it's, for the past couple of years, our overnight lows, especially here in Michigan,
And that's attributed to the lake.
yes, has been staying pretty way above average, I would say.
So with that happening, now the question is in the science realm is does that open us up for more severe activity, whether it's at night,
My biggest
Or during
fear, my biggest weather
tornado
fear,
at night?
tornado at night.
I mean, nowadays it's a little rough. Just
Yeah.
I would say back in the day, yes.
Yeah. Now,
And that's why
I
I
also
fell asleep with the Weather Channel on every night.
Yeah, you'd have. That's when you're not mad at Michael for cutting into the Michigan State basketball game. You're down for it. But yeah, that's
But no, I mean, like that was always a concern growing up. Now this thing, as soon as you get a warning, goes off louder than anything.
Remember when Tom O'Hare's voice used to wake you up in the old weather app?
Oh, I turned it off instantly. Nothing against you, Tom, but I was like, nope.
That scared me. My first week here, lightning ahead. I was like,
Yeah, who's in my house?
"Me, Tom?"
I muted that up real quick. And being in the
Yeah.
broadcast industry, I've muted my everything. This
Yeah,
is on Do Not
I would say
Disturb.
I'm afraid, but I also guess I'm the one who's the most equipped in
Well, I
any
mean-
of my friend groups to know what's happening.
I mean, well, that's the thing is like if we know something's happening, but the problem is like think about it. That is a very real fear.
Yeah.
And what did Twister do? Twister played into that very real fear.
Yeah, exactly.
And it does happen, but it does not happen nearly as much as you think.
It doesn't. And severe weather outbreaks at night do die very fast
Yeah.
because yes, it is warmer overnight, but it is not warm enough to keep them steady.
Right.
But it is something like you even see the national meteorologists and the Weather Channel like cause more of a concern when things are put at night
Right.
because it is just
You can't see.
you can't see, and we get those awesome pictures of severe weather setups in the skies. You can actually see like sometimes the updraft moving in to form a tornado, and that's like huge for just like people to know if something is brewing.
Right.
When it's night,
Yeah.
you can't see the clouds to know if something's starting to rotate or not, and that's scary.
And then you start getting those pictures where there's lightning in the background, you see a funnel.
yeah,
And that's nightmare fuel. Because
Right.
you can't see it. All you have to go on is what you can hear.
and just trust and find safety.
Yeah. And that is a big
is-
thing, yeah. I mean that boils down to the whole safety part. I mean, but that's the other thing with Tornado Alley. Majority of Tornado Alley doesn't have basements.
No.
Those areas
No.
can't have basements.
Yeah.
So that is one thing that we do have up here in a ton of
Yeah,
is
most-
basements.
Exactly.
But our topography allow for it, unless you're on a lake and sometimes you can have basements. But
right.
in the plain states, they can't have basements.
No.
They don't have basements. They have mini shelters in the garage. But yeah, so that's kind of the Tornado Alley look at things and how
Yeah.
it's moving east. It's not necessarily moving. It's
No,
expanding.
It's expanding.
They still see the same amount of tornadoes and outbreaks in the Central Plains. The problem is now we're seeing more outbreaks and more
Right.
east of the Mississippi River.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. It's not so much the per se of moving. It is just expanding now.
And it makes sense when you do the science and maths
Yeah.
because everything points to it.
I would say we talk about it all the time. I think that a constant theme we can say in this podcast is how we keep on talking about how things are getting warmer,
Right.
and how our weather's getting more extreme. And I think in this way, while it's not like we're seeing an increase of EF5 tornadoes, we're seeing an increase of just tornadoes in general in more of an area.
Right. And that would be boiling down to mesoscale.
Yeah.
If you guys want to take science class with
junior
us.
year of college, if you want to take it with us.
I took it my freshman year.
And you still stayed in this degree?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It was freshman or sophomore. They only offered it every 2-3 years.
Got it.
So I had to take it.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'd miss the bus.
That would do it.
So yeah, I took it, and it might have been a little over my head, but it made sense.
I mean, that means you know you're right in the right gig, though.
Yeah, if it made sense to me, I was like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
physics.
Yeah, that was a junior year class for me.
Yeah, I think it was other freshman, maybe it was sophomore, because they offered astronomy and then mesoscale and then another thing, and so every 3 years it would go.
Did you have to take astronomy?
No, I didn't have
Okay.
to, but
Okay.
it filled up. Everybody took astronomy.
Really?
Oh yeah, like I couldn't get in even if I tried,
Oh.
and it was taught by my Met professor.
Got it. Checks
I
out.
couldn't get in.
Checks out.
But I also didn't want in either. It's astronomy. So yeah, that's kind of where we at here. Yeah, that perfect timing. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them below about tornadoes, Tornado Alley, or anything that has to do with kind of what surrounds or encompasses
Yeah.
severe weather and locations geographically. But other than that, we'll catch you more on Beyond the Forecast.
Yes.
We do appreciate you all tuning in. Hopefully
course.
there were some things that you took away from it.
Learned a little.
Learned a little. Questions start popping up in your head. And that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Google works too, but we can do our best.
It's more fun when we answer it.
Yeah, because then we'll break down. So yeah, thank you guys for being here today
thank
for
you.
Beyond the Forecast podcast. I'm Chief Meteorologist Michael Stevens.
I'm meteorologist Haley Fischetti.
We appreciate it, and we will catch you all on Beyond the Forecast.
Yes.
And also next Tuesday for
And I would
another
say, and next
podcast.
week. Yes.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.